to hell with my boss, because that is kind of what my generation says. The number one title that millennials and Gen Z get at work is that we are entitled generation. But I knew that by 2025, millennials would have 75% of the workforce. I was actually telling people this in 2018.
When you say Harris, nobody knows who the hell you're talking about. No, nobody has any idea. Harris. Hey, where's Harris? They know Kamala. They know Kambabla. That was the nickname I used for a while, but I don't use it anymore because everyone thought I was just mispronouncing her name. I wasn't. Kambabla.
Vivek Ramaswamy, a prominent millennial who has been chosen to be part of President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet. Vivek talks about a new Republican Party. Now, is this just young jargon, or is Vivek on to something here? Welcome to Cozy Corner TV, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Karen Smith. Call me Q, and we are on the corner, ladies and gentlemen. We're on the corner with Vivek, one of my, if I'm honest, favorite people, a part of the Republican Party. I like Vivek. He's smart, he's witty, he's quick, he's intelligent. I like Vivek a lot. Unfortunately, I didn't pay a lot of attention to him when he was running for president. My bad, Vivek. If you see this in the future, I still want to have you on the channel at some point. But I just wasn't paying attention. Like, life was caught up. And he himself says it. Just a couple of years ago, if you would have talked to him about, you know, deep state stuff or the government being corrupted, he would have said that's just jargon, conspiracy jargon. But now he says, hey, it's actually possible. So we're going to listen to Vivek talk about a new Republican Party on the rise. And then we're going to take a deeper look at what he means by this new, refreshing, young, just different party in general. It seems that President-elect Donald Trump has some very prominent millennials a part of his cabinet. And ladies and gentlemen, if I'm getting distracted, that is because there's a treacherous fly that has been tormenting me. And when I find him, he will go to his grave. So let's take a look at what Vivek had to say about this new Republican Party.
I've heard you say that this is a new Republican Party. How is this different from the old Republican Party?
Well, it's a party that's now multi-ethnic working class coalition. You saw black voters, Hispanic voters, young voters. That was a big one. A much younger composition of the Republican primary base coming together on basic principles that really weren't as beholden to older Republican orthodoxies: free speech, anti-censorship, meritocracy, staying out of... These are some of the common threads that brings together what is a pretty diverse and broad tent coalition to restore together on basic principles that really weren't as beholden to older Republican orthodoxies: free speech, anti-censorship, meritocracy, staying out of World War III. These are some of the common threads that brings together what is a pretty diverse and broad tent coalition to restore those basic constitutional principles. Restoring self-governance is big in this new coalition. The idea that the people we elect to run government, they haven't been the ones actually running the government for a very long time. Donald Trump is going to be the president of the United States in the real sense of that capital, where he is actually making the decisions with the democratic will of the people behind him, not the unelected bureaucratic class underneath him. And I think that's something that unites former Democrats to independents to libertarians to, of course, traditional Republicans as well. I think that that's a common thing that unites us.
So Vivek says something that I think is very interesting. Sorry about the audio there, guys. It seemed to be cutting out. It seemed to have been cutting in and out. There's probably because I'm looking at a short and I was rewinding it a lot. But Vivek made a very interesting point. He says that Donald Trump is going to be the president with a capital P. So he starts to talk about how the leaders of our country, or the presidents of our country in the past, have not actually been the ones who have actually been running the country. Now, is this just deep state jargon that Vivek is getting into? No, I actually think Vivek is onto something here. I think that especially in this past election, we saw, especially with some of the people who came out and did a lot of the pandering during the election, how some people will really just come out of the woodworks to ensure or try to do their best to make sure that their party wins, even if their party is not coming through with good policy, common sense policy, I don't know, reasonable policy. So I think what Vivek is saying here, I think he's on to something when he says that Donald Trump is actually going to be the one making these decisions, and that's the way that it should be. If we have a president, our president should be the one making the decisions, not some rich party underneath him that kind of is like pulling the strings and the president is listening to them instead of following his better judgment. So let's take a look at kind of what they're talking about when it comes to Donald Trump's cabinet picks here. They were talking about how he has some very prominent millennials in his cabinet, and I wanted to watch this video because I think that it really speaks to what Vivek is saying when he's talking about a new Republican Party. Some of this is speaking exactly to what he's saying, because we see that, hey, this is a fairly young cabinet that Donald Trump is thinking about bringing on, or he is selecting. And while some of these people might not actually be present in the cabinet, like for instance a Matt Gaetz, because we know that Matt Gaetz has resigned, but we know that a lot of these other young prominent millennials will be a part of President Trump's cabinet in the foreseeable future. At least that's what it looks like. So let's take a look at some of his picks.
President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet appointees have prominent millennials, giving this generation unprecedented voice in shaping the nation. With diverse backgrounds and strong ideological stances, these appointments bring unique perspectives to the table. Millennial is 1981 and 1996, making them currently between the ages of 27 and 43 in 2024. This generation is known for growing up alongside the rise of the internet, experiencing the transition from...
So here we see some of President-elect Donald Trump's picks for his cabinet. We know this is Vice President-elect J.D. Vance. We have Vivek Ramaswamy right here, who is going to, I believe, co-run Dodge or Deutsche. I believe it's called Dodge, but they're basically a part of the government that President-elect Trump is going to use to cut a lot of unnecessary expenses. Depending on who you talk to, it's subjective if they're unnecessary or not. We have Tulsi Gabbard here, and I believe that Tulsi is, she used to be on the Democratic Party, but now she is a Republican. I think we saw that transition during the Trump election, during this past election that we just saw here. And Tulsi is she's very vibrant. You know, she knows her stuff. A lot of people have said that she's like, you know, a spy from Russia, or she's somebody who like works for Russia. Not really sure what all that's about. I kind of know where some of it comes from, but if you watch the interview that she did with Dr. Phil, she actually talks about like how hurtful that has been and how many people have really come up to her and asked her questions about that, because people have, you know, kind of spread those rumors about her. We have, I believe this is Elise Stefanik here. I think she's 40 years old. And then we have Matt Gaetz here, who has resigned. I believe Matt Gaetz resigned from Congress when that stuff was coming out about some allegations that he had in the past, because he was being chosen by President Trump to be, I think it was Secretary of Defense he was going to be, and like everyone literally lost it over that. Like the Capitol Hill, everyone lost it.
From analog to digital technology, millennials were the first to widely adopt social media and smartphones in their young adulthood, making them highly comfortable with digital environments. First up is Vivek Ramaswamy, a 39-year-old entrepreneur and former pharmaceutical CEO, appointed as the head of Department of Government Efficiency along with Elon Musk. Ramaswamy rose to fame through his work in biotech and became known for his vocal stature in corporate America. Earlier in the presidential race, Ramaswamy too was in contention, but later dropped out and paved the way for Trump. His appointment signals Trump's emphasis on strong business acumen and a focus on redefining corporate influence. Next up is Vice President J.D. Vance. Vance, a former venture capitalist, is a well-known advocate for working-class America, often addressing issues faced by the rural poor. His journey from a troubled upbringing to Yale Law School highlights the American dream's promise. With strong views on China and trade, he's likely to be the key deputy to President Trump. As a New York Congresswoman, Stefanik became one of Trump's most vocal defenders, earning a reputation as a staunch ally. Known for her advocacy on national security and military funding, she has pushed for stronger defense policies. She got her Bachelor of Arts degree in government from Harvard University in 2006. Post-Harvard, Stefanik worked for the George W. Bush administration and participated in launching several Republican campaigns as a director of new media and debate speechwriter until 2012. President-elect Donald Trump has selected Representative Matt Gaetz, the controversial Florida Republican, as his Attorney General. Known for his loyalty to Trump and keeping the spot.
Okay, so it wasn't Secretary of Defense. That might actually be Tulsi. It was Attorney General for Matt Gaetz.
Like with frequent scandals, Gaetz's potential appointment to the country's top law enforcement position is a cause for concern for many. Matt Gaetz was previously involved in a Justice Department sex trafficking investigation, the same department he's now set to lead, and faced scrutiny from the House Ethics Committee over allegations of sexual misconduct.
And this is where, even though no charges were brought forth, everyone was saying, well, we kind of want to see what the investigation entailed, and we wanted to see the details. There was a big debate about that. The House was split. They couldn't decide if they were going to release what had actually happened, and then it ended up coming out.
However, that investigation effectively concluded on Wednesday when Gaetz resigned from Congress. Tulsi Gabbard was appointed as the Director of National Intelligence by President-elect Donald Trump. Donald Trump described Tulsi Gabbard as a proud Republican who can bring her fearless spirit into the intelligence community. Tulsi Gabbard is a veteran who served in the U.S. military for more than 2 decades. She represented the Democratic Party and served as a congresswoman for Hawaii's 2nd District from 2013 to 2021. Often mistaken for an Indian because of her first name, Tulsi Gabbard has no ties to India. Gabbard's mother converted to Hinduism and gave all her children Hindu names. Tulsi Gabbard.
And it also goes on to say that Tulsi Gabbard actually identifies as a Hindu, right? And she was actually one of the first congresswomen Hindus to be appointed. So I'm wondering, what do you guys think about President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet? What do you think about it being a lot of millennials a part of that cabinet? I knew this statistic, this little fact and or statistic, but I knew that by 2025, millennials would have 75% of the workforce. I was actually telling people this in 2018, and I was telling them that because for a long time, millennials, we've always been a little bit of a disruption, right? When we first went in the workforce, it was hard for us to stay at work, meaning we were just quitting left and right and no one knew why. Millennials tend to be a lot more on the vocal side versus other generations. We're usually the ones offending our older generation, not on purpose, but because we're more vocal, and historically that wasn't the practice. So especially in the workplace, this I see often. Like the number one title that millennials and Gen Z get at work is that we are entitled generation, and that's because of being very vocal and upfront. So when you have baby boomers, and silent generation is not in the workforce, but when you have the baby boomers still in the workforce but exiting soon, yet raised by the silent generation, and then you still have Gen X there, and then you have millennials that'll come in and just say, for lack of better terms, to hell with my boss, because that is kind of what my generation says. It's a disruption. So what do you guys think about the millennials being in the cabinet? So many of the millennials being in the cabinet. I'm dying to know what you guys think about some of Donald Trump's picks. Some people completely lost it. Some people were super excited about it. Some people really happy about some, not so happy about others. So go ahead and light up that comment section, guys. Tell me what you think about these picks, about the cabinet being not completely full of millennials, but having a lot of millennials in it. Are we excited about it? Are we worried because millennials, we tend to blow things up sometimes? Like, what do we think? So thank you guys for stopping by and chilling on a corner with me. It's always a good time, guys. So until next time, be peaceful. Love yourselves. Love one another. Peace.